Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really fresh, high-impact approach to leadership development. I mean, in a world that just keeps getting faster, how do senior leaders actually stay sharp, stay relevant, and get ready for whatever's coming next? Well, let's get into it. Okay, we're going to kick things off with a pretty big question, one that a lot of companies are wrestling with right now. Is the way we've always trained our leaders, is it just fundamentally broken for the challenges we face today? It's a bold idea, for sure, and it's right at the heart of what we're going to unpack. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the pressure cooker modern leaders are in and see why the old models just aren't holding up. Then, we'll introduce this new idea, the high impact booster, and check out the 5 essential skills it builds. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together to create real confidence. So first up, let's really set the scene. Before we can talk about a new model, we have to understand the incredibly intense, high-pressure world that modern executives are trying to navigate every single day. You see, leaders today are caught in what you could call a squeeze. On one hand, what we expect from them is constantly going up. They've got to be more strategic, more influential, more decisive than ever. But on the other hand, the speed of business is accelerating, which shrinks the time they have to actually make those big calls. It's a tough spot to be in. So with that intense squeeze going on, why aren't the old methods working anymore? Well, it turns out the traditional playbook, it just wasn't written for this new, incredibly fast-paced game. And when we say the old way, you know what we're talking about. Those traditional development journeys. These are the big, comprehensive leadership programs, often off-site, that can stretch out over months or sometimes even years. And here's the real irony. The greatest strength of those programs, how comprehensive and deep they are, has now become their biggest weakness. In a world that's moving at lightning speed, they are just too slow to meet the real-time demands that leaders are facing right now. Which brings us to the solution. You know, if the old way is too slow, what does a faster, more agile approach actually look like? This is where we get to introduce this idea of the high-impact booster. So instead of that long, drawn-out journey, this new model is all about targeted interventions. A better way to think of them is as boosters. These short, sharp, super-focused sessions that are all about results. And here's the most important part. They're designed so you can immediately use what you learned right back on the job. No waiting months to see a change. So how does this actually work in practice? Well, it's a really simple but incredibly powerful 3-step process. First, you pinpoint a very specific need. Say, making better decisions under pressure. Second, you deliver a focused booster session on that exact skill. And third, and this is key, the leader immediately goes back and applies that new skill to the challenges they're facing today. It's so practical and direct. Okay, so what kind of skills are we actually talking about here? Let's open up the toolkit this new model is designed to build. These are the skills that are absolutely essential for any leader who wants to be ready for the future. So, 5 skills really stand out as the most critical boosters. We're talking about sharpening your strategic thinking so you can see what's coming, gaining real clarity to cut through the noise on tough decisions, mastering stakeholder influence to get everyone on the same page, building that powerful executive presence that just commands respect. And this one is so crucial today, developing real AI fluency so you can lead in a tech-driven world. These are the things that make a huge difference. All right, so we've seen the problem and we've walked through the solution, but what does it all lead to? What's the real, tangible result of this targeted, high-impact approach to leadership? Ultimately, when you boil it all down, the whole point of this model is to empower executives to stay sharp in their thinking, totally relevant to their industry, and ready for whatever the future decides to throw at them. And this quote just nails it. The promise here isn't about some abstract theory. It's about enabling leaders to perform decisively, influence with real confidence, and drive actual results, especially when the pressure is on. So we'll leave you with a question to chew on. Thinking about those skills, strategic thinking, decision clarity, influence, presence, AI fluency, which one of those boosters do you think would sharpen your leadership the most right now? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us.